talking about how to teach students to follow classroom procedures. So for the anticipatory set, there's some chairs that have a piece of paper underneath it. If it's not your chair, then check the other chairs around you. There should be 5 pieces of paper. Yes. So once you found them, just take them out. It has a paragraph on it. Alright, so you got 1, 2, 3. Does someone else have? There. 4, 5. Okay, perfect. So if we can, what we're going to do is we're going to read this case study. Those of you who have the piece of paper, we're going to read it out loud first. And then we'll tell you what to do from there. So all of you guys can follow along as well. So the person who has the paragraph that starts with due to illness. Just look in here. Alright, so read it out loud and follow along.
Due to illness, I called for a sub. When my students came in for homeroom, I wasn't there, nor was a sub. The students took roll, filled out the attendance schedule, listened to the announcement, recited the flirt, and dismissed on the bell.
Alright, person with the second paragraph. My first period class came in.
My first period class came in next, and the sub still hadn't arrived. The students took out their daily work and began working. When most had finished, one student went to the front, used the key, and led the class through the answers. He then looked at the board of the schedule and had everyone take out their grammar homework. He used that key and went over the homework with them.
Alright, next 2 paragraphs. Now about 20 minutes. No one? Okay, I'll read it real quick. Now about 20 minutes into the period, they still didn't have a teacher. The self-appointed leader wrote out a pass for another student and sent him to the office to check on the teacher's situation. When the office was notified, there was concern and distress. What had been going on for the last 20 minutes? The principal went back to the room with the student. And the next one?
When I returned the next day, the principal told me when he entered the room, the students were seated and working on the current grammar lesson with the student leader working it on the overhead. The principal asked the student for the subplans and moved to leave the room. The student leader then said, Mr. Blank, could I have the plans back? I haven't finished teaching yet.
And then the last paragraph.
Procedures and organization have empowered my students and myself. I don't have problems with discipline, and I look forward to coming to work and spending time learning with my kids since I've been using procedures.
Alright, so we're going to go back. With the people around you, not in a group, just the people around you, discuss the 3 positive aspects of the classroom discipline. So discuss it with the person next to you, and we'll give you about a minute, and then we'll have you share it out loud. So, you can go back to the
Can you do something else?
And students obviously like this, but they would have just like to show their teachers like,
Right, true story.
But they also like to
Yeah.
so I think that maybe it's because of the students.
Do you guys have a question about
Alright, so you guys can just wrap up that.
It's means substitute. When a teacher is absent, that's when the substitute comes in and take over the class.
Alright, so if I can have a few people just share what their aspects, what they came up with. Maybe like 3 people. Feel free to share what you guys came up with for the 3 positive aspects.
We talked about how like the teacher loves us and she's happy to go to work and the kids are happy too and that they're empowered, you know, they took the initiative and just did everything that they need to do and taught each other. and because they already knew exactly how their class went, so they weren't lost when a teacher wasn't there to guide them.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Something that Marcia was saying was like they're probably like really well disciplined, because if they weren't, they'd probably just do whatever they wanted to do. But instead they got to work and got things done.
One more person? No? Alright, that's okay.
So today in our lesson, we're going to discuss how we can create such an environment, like a positive environment that was described in the case study. And the lesson outcomes are: learners can explain the three-step approach to teach classroom procedures, and learners can set personal goals for future classroom procedures. So the lesson outcomes are over here too, so you can look at it all the time.
Alright, so we're going to hand you out a piece of paper. We're not going to have enough time to go over each step, but just follow along with the slides.
Yes.
So,
You can take notes while you're listening.
yeah. So just wait for 2 seconds. Alright, so the first part of the chapter that we discussed was that the problem is not discipline. It is actually it is the lack of procedures and routines. So it's important as teachers to be effective. Effective teachers teach students how to responsibly cover procedures, and ineffective teachers use controlling tactics. So they kind of persuade the students to get their work done. They're ineffective. So the 3 main reasons students don't follow procedures is because the teacher hasn't thought out what happens in the classroom. So they're kind of last minute, maybe they're not too organized. The students have not been taught how to follow procedures. So maybe like the first day of school, they didn't really go over the rules and procedures of the classrooms, so they kind of do whatever they want. And the last one, the teacher spends no time managing the classroom with procedures. Classroom management consists of the practices and procedures and teachers uses to maintain an environment in which instruction and learning can occur. So I thought this was important, that classroom management and discipline are not the same. So we'll go over the differences between discipline and procedure afterwards. Okay, and then these are just a little chart to explain the effective classroom. So kind of like the case study, the students knew what they were supposed to do. They came into class, they were alone for about 20 minutes, and they had everything under control. So this is because the teacher has good procedures. She knows what the students should do, and the students know their expectations. In the ineffective classroom, the students are in their seats doing busy work, or they're not really doing anything, they're not paying attention. Alright, so this is the difference between discipline and procedures. So discipline plans have rules. It concerns how students behave, and it has penalties and rewards. Whereas procedures are classroom management plans, and it's a method of process for getting things done, and it concerns how things are done in the classroom.
Now we're going to talk about why procedures are important. That we must understand that by giving students clear instructions and guidance, we can give them the feeling of security in the classrooms. So if we don't have clear instructions, they'll feel lost and anxious in participating in class. So we must have clear instructions of what we expect of them. And here are the 4 reasons why procedures are necessary. 1, classroom procedures are statements of student expectations to function effectively in school environment. So as I said earlier, they need to know what the teachers expect of them. And 2, classroom procedures allow many different activities to take place efficiently with a minimum of wasted time and confusion. If we have clear instructions, then students can move quickly or work efficiently without wasting time. 3, classroom procedures increase on-task time and greatly reduce classroom disruptions. This is related to number 2. We can decrease the time wasted in class if we have procedures already built up. And 4, classroom procedures tell students how the classroom is organized thus reducing discipline problems. So if we tell them what we expect of them or how to behave, and we have clear instructions of working in class, then they'll work in an organized group and will not have classroom management problems. Okay. So procedures is what teachers want done, and routine is what students do automatically. So if we teach students procedures and make it a routine, then just like in the case study that we looked at in the first section of this lesson, they can know what to do without teachers' instructions. So, so if there is a procedure for everything that teachers do, they should not need to discipline a student because they know what to do, which means they will not, oftentimes, or most of the time, they will not behave in a way that we don't want them to. And if there's a routine for students to do, they can act without waiting for instruction. So procedures are part of school and our normal life. So let's say procedures in life. I think the most common example is on airplanes. We're sitting in our seats, and the attendants will always, show us how to inflate those bags around your neck when you're supposed to go to the exit, the emergency exit, emergency. And because we know all those things from them, well, I've never been in an emergency situation, but we'll probably be able to move faster and quicker because we know what to do. And here are some examples of procedures in school, such as dismissal at the end of a period of our day, or quieting a class, start of the period of our day, students seeking help, movement of students, and papers. So for example, quieting a class, I think you've all experienced, you have some experience in like elementary school seeing teachers going like, heads up, or making some rhythmical, sentences to get their attention. That's part of the procedure.
Okay. So the most important part is we need to know how to teach students the classroom procedures very effectively. So what you need to do is you need to follow the 3 steps approach, which is teach, rehearse, and reinforce. So you teach them, you need to tell them and explain your classroom procedures very clearly, and you can teach them verbally or visually. So you tell them, or you can show them a poster and put it on the wall so that they can see it all the time. And you need to get it ready on the first day of school or the beginning of the semesters. So there are some examples of some procedures posted, and it is really helpful, especially for kindergarten or elementary students. So the second part is rehearse. The most important reason we should do it is because practice makes perfect, and we need to do it with the whole class step by step so that they won't be confused. And you need to be there when they're practicing your classroom procedures. It is really important for you to be there to watch them because you need to correct them if they're not doing exactly what you want them to do. So you need to give feedback, and if they do it exactly correct, you need to give them some reward, like say good job, or just give them a sticker, something like that. It will work. And you need to make it to be a student habit or routine. And it is really important for you to remind them and let them experience. So if you want to remind them, just read the classroom procedures out and then let them really do it by themselves. So there's some reminders for teaching classroom procedures. So telling is not teaching. You need to let them move and experience it. And you cannot change your classroom procedures during the semester or during the school year, so that because they will be confused and they cannot memorize it very well. And you need to practice it every day with your class. And don't stop practicing until it becomes automatic, which is they are physically engaged, just like the class in this case study.
Okay, now we're going to do a group activity. And first there are two parts in this activity. First, we'll give you numbers 1 to 3 actually, because we're a smaller number. We'll give you numbers 1 to 3, and you'll be divided into groups. And we will give you a worksheet to work on with some readings, which is from our lesson, and discussing your groups about the section, and write down the key points of the section following that worksheet. And then in part 2, we will divide you again into a different group. So if you can, I'm not sure if you can see it, but so this is part 1. Just ignore the bottom part. So there will be group 1, 2, 3, who's working on section 1, section 2, and section 3. And in part 2 of this activity, group A will have one person from group 1, one person from 2 and 3, so that we'll equally have a person who discussed about each section. So I'm not sure. Do you have any questions? Already? So you're going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Is that okay?
So once you get your numbers, just move to the.
Yeah. Here will be number 1, number 2 in the middle, and number 3 in the corner over there. It's mainly about the section.
So this is for the chapter section, and this is the paper that you guys will be.
We'll give you guys about 2 minutes just because we're running short on time. So.
What is the piece problem?
That's from the second section, so you might, if you know the answer, you don't have to read it.
And that's the major problems in the classroom are caused by the way our students follow procedures. So the problem is why not following the procedures are necessary.
Okay, let's talk from notes that I'm going to show you. First one was just taking the student expectation. Yeah.
Shorter too.
And 2 is allowing different activities. Different activities. Okay.
So why might they not follow?
Alright, just write down your main ideas and then we'll put you guys in your other groups.
Students will not be.
The teachers spend so much time managing the classroom.
What are the things teaching procedures in meeting? Procedure is
So we'll give you about 30 more seconds, and I'll put you into another group.
Time constraint.
Okay, now I'll give you I'll give you an alphabet so that you can be in another group. A, B, B, C, C. was another group. A, B, B, C, C. A, B, C.
So all the A's get together, all the B's, and all the C's.
A will be over there. B and C.
What's your group? Discuss different sections together.
Yes.
You gotta talk about it.
I'm
Do you guys want to keep this over here or?
Once you're in your group, share what you have discussed in your previous group.
Wait.
Going back again.
Jamie?
Welcome to the Indonesian club.
Just explain what you would do. Just explain what you would do for the
Alright, so sorry guys, unfortunately we're out of time because we have to let the other group go. But what you guys would do is you would share obviously each part of your sections with one another and just write down what you took away from each section. So, yeah, group 3, alright, okay.